Yeah, thank you very much for coming today to our talk about recharging our batteries. And our goal today is to recharge your batteries, but actually, admittedly, we're doing this for ourselves. So thinking about climate change and the climate crisis and how we can stop it is actually quite draining and can be really depressing and sad. So we thought, okay, we will try to remind ourselves today a little bit of the successes that have already been made, and we will try to recharge our battery today. And we have brought a battery. It's not entirely empty. It has a little bit of charge, but hopefully during this talk we will be able to charge it up a bit more. Well, let me start by introducing ourselves. So we're Juliane and Simone, and I am a researcher, I'm a physicist, and I work on new materials for solar panels. So specifically, I research so-called perovskite silicon tandem solar cells, and I do this in Freiburg now. And this is where I met Simone.
Yes, because I also live in Freiburg in Germany, and I am a climate scientist by training, but I currently work at the KIT in Karlsruhe in the science communication for atmospheric sciences. And in my free time, I'm also the head of the Balcony Solar Association and two other groups in this kind of field, and we do lots of work in the political area, but I will tell about this later in the talk.
Yeah, so let's start with our topic. So, as I'm sure you all know, the world is on fire. The climate crisis is getting worse and worse. We have headlines every day about flooding, climate misinformation, droughts, and all kinds of other problems that the climate crisis is already causing. So yeah, we have a real problem. And yeah, I think this is really why we're here today, that...
Juliane!
Oh, am I doing something to drain the battery?
That's not good. We said we want to charge the battery.
Okay, let's try this differently then. I mean, have we tried turning it on and off again?
Can we?
I mean, we can try to restart this talk, but we can't really turn on and off the Earth, right? So unfortunately, we only have one planet. There is no planet B. We can't restart. At least I couldn't find the power button yet. So if somebody lets me know where the power button is, we can try to restart. But unfortunately, I don't think that's possible. So instead, we will try to look at some strategies of how we can combat the climate crisis. And I want to start with a little bit of history and with a quote that is not from yesterday, it's a little bit older than that. And my question is, who said it? So sun, water, or wind cannot cover more than 4% of our electricity needs, not even long term.
Come on, it was your uncle.
No, not my problematic uncle. Who said it? Any guesses? Yes, I've heard it. So it was this lady, Angela Merkel.
Ooh. Looking fresh.
This is actually a picture from the time when she said this. So she said this in the 90s when she was the federal minister for the environment. And at the time, she was saying that sun, water, or wind cannot cover more than 4% of our electricity needs. This is quite curious because I looked it up. In 1995, we were already at 5% renewables in Germany. So claiming that only 4% is possible, interesting point. She picked this up from the fossil fuel lobby, by the way. So there was a campaign that she picked this up from. But anyway, let's look at today, a little bit later than 1995. And these are the statistics from this year. You can see them month by month, but also the average. And on the very left, you see that we're already well over 50%. So this year, 56% of the electricity used in Germany came from renewables. So I think we're doing pretty well.
Woo-hoo!
We've definitely surpassed Angela Merkel's prediction. Unfortunately, this is not quite enough. We do need even more. So today with you, we want to brew a magic potion with you. A magic potion for a sustainable energy future. And what we hope this potion will do is make the energy transition stronger and move us faster away from climate-damaging ways of generating electricity. And we need different ingredients for that, right? So let's start with the first ingredient.
Grass?
Well, no, not grass. This is not a talk about weed legalization. We're talking about a different kind of grass, namely grassroots activism.
Oh, I know that.
That's something you've done quite a lot of, so I'll hand over to you.
This grassroots activism is really important. And I brought to you, I'm bringing to you a story that I know very well, a story of human energy. And in this case, it's a story of the electricity rebels from the Black Forest. Maybe you remember, or maybe you heard of the disaster in Chernobyl in 1986. And then afterwards, a group of parents, just ordinary citizens of the small town in Schönau in the Black Forest, came together and they discussed that they want to make the electricity green and safe for their children and for everyone. And how could you do that? In this case, they had the idea to take over the grid, the local grid. And so they needed good politics and also money for that. So in the end, there was 2 local referenda where they had to ask the local citizens if they are allowed to buy the grid. And in both cases, they won. So, but in the end, at this point, they still had no money to buy the grid, and it was really expensive, more than 4 million Deutsche Mark at this time. And so then they did a public crowdfunding and were able actually to get the money by all of you, all of the people from France, for example, from Germany, from other countries, to fund this project. And then they bought the grid, and then they were able to just feed in green electricity in their grid. And in the end, also, they got a really renowned prize for what they achieved. In this case, Obama handed it over to them, but also you see Ursula Sladek, one of the founders in this picture. She also brought something back to the White House to teach them about green electricity. And
international recognition for some random people from the Black Forest. I think that charges my battery pretty well.
That's quite cool. And nowadays, everyone can buy electricity for their homes from them. But also they give back the money that they received in the 80s and 90s by citizens to other citizen energy projects. So everyone can write them with their ideas, which I think is a really nice example for human energy and grassroots that are taking a really, bring us really far in our energy transition. But this is not enough, because we need something else. And this thing, I think you're a specialist in.
Yes, I can take over here. So the second ingredient that we need has less, well, still has something to do with people, but the second ingredient is about technological progress. So we also need the right technologies, right, if we want to change the energy landscape. And one really prominent one that is now everywhere are photovoltaic solar panels. So you can see them in lots of places, and I will have some more examples in a moment, but this didn't happen out of nowhere. The technology had to be developed first, and they've been around for a long time, but the first common systems were in the 80s. Here's an example from one that operated for decades outdoors, and at the time when it was first made, it had an efficiency of 7%. So that means all of the energy that is coming in from the sun, be it thermal or invisible light, 7% of that was being transformed into electricity. These days, they look a little bit differently, but not that much. They're just a bit bigger. And the technology inside has changed quite a lot. So now the efficiencies are 3 times as high as they used to be at 22%.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, that's quite the technological progress. And the research team I work with, we try to make them even more efficient for the future.
Thank you.
They have been quite... They have been quite underestimated, though. So here's an example. This is from the International Energy Agency, and they make these world energy outlooks every year where they predict what the energy landscape in the world will look like in the future. And you can see at the bottom in yellow, the one from 2010, they were predicting an annual new PV addition that would be pretty flat, from like maybe like 2 gigawatts up to like 50 gigawatts, but like very slow growth. And then the next year they realized, oh wait, it's growing much faster than we had predicted, we need to correct this. And they've had to do this every year since. So these predictions keep having to be corrected because the reality is massively surpassing them.
Wow.
And one factor that has really helped with this is that they've gotten much, much cheaper. So there's a so-called price learning curve that you can apply for lots of different types of technologies that has a lot to do with technological innovation, but also a lot with just producing more of it. So at the bottom axis, there is the cumulative production. So the more production there has been, the cheaper they have become per watt peak, so per electricity output. So if you take a look, for example, 2010, the price was around like 2 euros per watt peak output, and now it's more like 20 cents per watt peak. So much, much cheaper, so making it much more viable for lots of different applications, lots of different places. So this has been really progress made both by researchers and by industry really working on implementing.
I heard progress.
So this is the technological progress that we've had in the last decades. The example is solar panels here, but this similar trends have happened for wind, for more recently batteries, and also heat pumps and things like that. So the technology is getting better and better, and we really have all the technologies that we need to make the energy transition successful. Which brings me to our next ingredient, which is laws.
Ooh, I like that.
I know you tried to change some of them, so I'll hand over to you for that.
Yes, I did try.
But actually, I'm just remembering we have a history lesson first.
Oh my God, no.
So first, let's look back a little bit, and I have another basically, what we need to do is change the political framework, and I have another guessing game for you. Who is this man? Any ideas?
No one.
Yeah, he's not that well known, is he? So this is Hermann Scheer. He was a member of the German parliament for 30 years, and he's one of the architects of the German feed-in tariff law. So the law that first allowed people to feed in the electricity they made, so this was a big step and is still not realized in many places. For example, some states in the US, even if you're generating more solar energy than you can use, you cannot put it into the grid. This is different and has been different in Germany for a long time due to this man and the team he worked with. And then the other thing they did is invent this feed-in tariff system where you're actually getting money for it, and you're getting a guaranteed amount of money. So you know when you're installing your solar panels how much money you're going to get over the next 20 years, and this really helped people to actually take that risk and do that. So this change in the political framework was really, really important. And the impact is very clear. So if we look at the annual addition of photovoltaics generation in Germany in the early 2000s, there was a massive rise there, and all the way to like 2010, 2011, when we had a lot of solar being installed in Germany. Germany was a pioneer in solar, not just installation, but also production, and hundreds of thousands of people worked in the solar industry, both in installation but also in production. And then this man came in. I can hear some groans, so who is this man? Altmaier, yes. So this is Peter Altmaier. He was federal minister for the environment 2012 to 2013, and then had a variety of other positions later on as well. And he changed the political framework. He changed the feed-in tariff law very suddenly. So people had huge uncertainty. It was less lucrative to build solar and wind.
Juliane.
And yeah, sorry, I think we have to discharge our battery bit over this. And unfortunately, it had a massive impact. So he caused what's known as the Altmaier dip.
No.
And yeah, thanks to him, the solar industry in Germany died, basically. So most companies that were actually producing solar panels and inverters and things like that went out of business. A lot of people lost their jobs, both in the installation sector and in the production sector. Yeah, I mean, I got to tell you the realities. And it's a really clear example how a simple change in the political framework can really mess up a lot of progress that has already been there. You can see a bit of a recovery then into the 2020s, but it took until 2022 to get back to the same level of 2011. So it took over 10 years to get back to the same level of new installation as we had in 2011. And I always imagine, what if this had stayed flat? What if we just had continued with what we had in 2011? We would have so much solar now, and a lot more of our electricity would come from renewables, because similar things apply for wind and other forms of renewable energy. But that's unfortunately not the case. But we did have a new solar boom in the 2020s, so 2021, 2022, 2024, a lot of solar was being installed. And this was partially because the technology had gotten so cheap that it didn't matter anymore that the political framework was bad. But it also partially was because the political framework did get better again, because there was a different minister who helped this along much more. Woo. Yeah, and now we're in 2025. We have yet again a new minister, and it's quite unclear at the moment what will happen. So there have been a lot of very worrying proposals about making people pay for feeding in and all kinds of odd proposals. It's not really clear what will happen. So this is really something to watch out for and to keep an eye on the politics what are happening there, if the framework in Germany will change again. So at the moment, it's really complicated to predict what will happen. Lots of different moving parts, and the situation in Germany is quite complicated at the moment.
Okay, so I will not add one.
Yeah, we'll see. Next year we'll know if we have to take off more for this or whether it will be okay-ish. But I mean, Germany is not the only place in the world, right? So maybe we should look somewhere else and see how things are going there.
Yes, of course. I mean, we're global. And for example, China, they are really doing lots of good things for the energy transition. For example, here in 2017, they built this very cute solar plant in the shape of two pandas, especially for promoting the solar technology to the young people. And for example, in the last year, China alone installed so much solar capacity than Germany did in total, in all the years together. So it's also quite nice that other countries doing a lot of work. And everywhere now you see these pandas at all the solar conferences that I go to, and it's also quite cute.
Yeah, to take a different example from a different continent, here's the electricity generation in Brazil in 2024. And you can see that only a very small fraction was from natural gas. Everything else was hydropower, biofuels, wind, and solar. So in Brazil, the proportion is already really huge of electricity generation from renewables. The challenge is a little bit when we look at these numbers that this is only the electricity generation. It's not the total energy. So of course we also have other sectors. We have industry, we have heating and cooling for houses, we have transportation, which is still a big challenge. So in most countries, the electricity sector is already further along in the energy transition than the transport transition that we also need and things like that. So if we look at the total energy supply in Brazil, there is still a big fraction of oil and oil products being used, especially for transportation. So this is something that, as in many other countries as well, is still a big challenge. So the kind of the transformation of the transportation sector is a big one that still needs to be done, and similar things apply for industry. And yeah, there is still work to do, unfortunately.
It's good and bad.
So yeah, this is always something to keep in mind when you see these charts of electricity consumption. Have a look at what the total energy for this country is. It's often a bit harder to find. But let's look at another positive example then and move to a different country.
I bet you did not see that coming. And this is a really nice example. I know, for example, I know this woman hanging on this interesting device. This is Antonia by Gizmo Power. She's the CEO. And in the US, they built a so-called driveway PV system that can be used as it's movable as a carport, and they are started production already. And then there is this guy on the left side. He is Raymond Ward. He is the representative of the Utah government. And I met him this year at the solar conference in Munich, and he got very inspired by our story in Germany with the plug-in solar systems, that he actually set up a similar law in the US, in Utah, which is now the law in Utah and is taken up by other states, so that all the people that live there are able to just have their own small plug-in solar systems. And he's actually a Republican.
Oh, that's surprising.
I did not believe that in the beginning, but there is still hope.
Yeah, so if we take all of this together and look at a global picture, just a couple of weeks ago, the magazine Science published an article in which they said that the unstoppable growth of renewable energy is science's 2025 breakthrough of the year. And in the article, they actually interestingly write, it's not really a new technology. All of the technologies that we're talking about have been around for quite a while. What is new is the magnitude and how widespread they are being used. And the reason why they did this year is this chart. So this is the global installed electricity capacity, and for the first time, solar has surpassed all other. Well, you gotta improvise then if it's full. You'll make it work. And yeah, solar has for the first time surpassed coal and natural gas, and wind is also quickly catching up. So you can really see this trajectory that the renewable energies are massively taking off. And this global success is made up by lots of local actions and local successes. So maybe you have a local success that you want to talk about.
Sure. As I said before, Ray Ward from Utah, he got inspired, and maybe a little bit as well by what my association does. Not only my association, but there are many different groups in Germany that we work with. And our mission was to make plug-in solar a right for everyone. And here it says for tenants, because the problem in Germany was that only people that own a house were able to have solar panels on their roof. But more than half of our people in this country were not able to participate in the energy transition, and it was something not for them. And the plug-in solar can close this gap. But in the beginning was the problem that if you live in a flat, if you rent a flat, you had to ask your landlord for permission. And many landlords were not really happy. They said it looks ugly or something like that. Or the color, I don't like the color, whatever. And there were lots of red tape and many things. So then we came together, founded an association for the promotion of plug-in solar in Germany, and took on this challenge to make it accessible for everyone. And then it started in kind of 2022, I would say, that we came together to have a petition, an official petition to the German Bundestag, and with lots of help and support by Andreas Schmitz, the Accu Doctor. You might know him from a YouTube channel. And all of our group, we went to the Bundestag, talked to them.
Wait, who's that? Who's that?
Okay.
Are you wearing the same blazer? Okay, I'll leave you alone.
I only have one.
And so this is as important as going to the Bundestag. You bring out the nice blazer for this talk. That's nice to know.
Of course. And now actually, we changed the law. We have written a different law now that it's allowed for everyone to have your own plug-in solar at home.
Woo!
And as you can see already here, in 2020, there were like 8,000 systems in Germany registered. And during the years we were actively promoting all of this. It went to 1 million registered systems in Germany this year. But these are only the registered official numbers, and we've asked people, and then we got to share how many actually register. And I don't know, how many of you have a plug-in solar at home? Can you show? Wow.
How many have registered your system on the Marktstammdatenregister? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Some, okay. And these are actually the numbers we estimate. We come to a number of 4 million devices or 4 million sets of systems of plug-in solar at balconies at home, which is really great. You can also, if you don't have one, you can find our sample letter to your landlord at our webpage. He's not allowed to not allow it for you, so you have to write to it. And actually, what I really like in this kind of thing, it's really a breakthrough in the heads of the people, not only in like the electricity that it produces, because the people, the tenants that were not able to participate before, they now really can feel the energy transition. They feel I am a part of it, and it's also a way to democratize for a better democracy in the country. And it gives a feeling of belonging to the energy transition. But of course, there was a success. We took on a new challenge this year, did actually a second petition, and now we have a different government in charge, you might remember. So we went there because we wanted now to address the batteries that you have in your homes. And you see the light blue color, it's the home storages that are already at the houses of the people. We want to make use of this, to have like a dynamic system for even more use of solar energy. At this time, in October this year, we've been to the Bundestag, and they did not really listen that well, so to say. But there were other allies. This woman in this picture, she called us right after our meeting in the Bundestag. She is Nina Scher, also a member of the Bundestag for the Social Democratic Party. And she picked our topic up and now is trying to help us with this. And if you paid attention, you might remember her name, because she is the daughter of Hermann Scher that we showed before. And
so carrying on the family tradition.
Yes, she is. It's a really cool family, I guess.
Great, so we have our ingredients, we have the grassroots activism, we have advancements in technology, and we have ways of trying to change the legal framework. So we have all the ingredients. Unfortunately, this does not yet make a magic potion. We do need people to stir the pot, so we can actually get there. So we need everybody to get involved. This includes you, because this kind of big wooden spoon for the big pot we had earlier, we can't handle that by ourselves. So we've brought you some examples of how you can get involved. So one thing you can do here in Germany is to join a solar camp, which are happening all around in various places where people can learn how to do solar installations in kind of fun groups over the summer. So typically it's like a week-long camp over the summer where people learn how to do solar installations. And this has happened all over, and I think they're also now for next year setting up new times and so on. So do watch out for your local solar camp and see how you can get involved, either as someone learning at such a solar camp or as someone helping with the logistics of running such a solar camp. So they're really important, and they really are kind of a hands-on opportunity for people to, direct their talents towards actually contributing to the energy transition. You can also try to break a world record next year.
It was my world record.
But you want it to be broken, don't you?
Yes, that was the point. In 2024, actually, we set up a world record in upcycling. Because my association, we get very often used solar panels from schools, for example. They are repowering. And with these used solar panels, they are usually 20 years old. They are very fine working. And in 2024, we did a world record, and actually it got stolen this year by Climate Connect. They set up in 5 cities in Germany, and they were successful, but it was what we wanted, actually. But still, the upcoming year, we want to break the world record again, because we want to bring it back to Freiburg. And here you see in 2024 at the city square, we did like 100 systems in an upcycling activity. And if you like, please participate in next year's world record. You will find it on our website soon.
And then you can take your balcony solar system home that you've built yourself. I think that's a real nice nerdy thing to do, to build your own solar system.
We teach you how to rewire everything and all you need to know for that. But I mean, as we are here at a chaos event, your enthusiasm and also sometimes a bit of chaos might also help. For example, this actually is the flat of a local mayor close to Freiburg. He got really carried away by his love for plug-in solar. It could also be quite decorative. Or if you don't like your neighbor so much, or the view you have, but if you like solar, then I would recommend getting something like this. Or if you're really a true chaos person,
I love how it's also like 5 different types of solar panels. It's like nothing matches. It's
creative.
Amazing.
But I mean, something else creative close by.
Yeah, so we've brought along a local example installed this year. So these are solar panels. The pride flag is made out of solar panels. And as you can spot, they are installed on the stadium of St. Pauli. And I like this in particular because, I mean, it's colorful, that's always great, but also the technology for this to allow for the color and not take away efficiency from the solar panels was developed by some of my colleagues. So I always love that they're now out in the wild and are actually on the roof. And I brought this example along not just because it's here in Hamburg, but because it really is an example for roofs that you may have access to even if you don't have your own roof. So have a think. Are you a member of a football club? Are your parents in a tennis club? Does your uncle have a big roof? Have a think about roofs that you may be able to kind of push towards solar. And I really encourage you to talk to people and to, I don't know, email your landlord, go to the committee meeting of your sports club and ask them, why is there no solar on our roof? What can we do to change that? And this can be really effective. And sometimes it's even big commercial entities like here, the CCH, that do turn around and install solar. So we couldn't find when exactly this was installed. We know it's now on there, so you can see the bottom square, that's all solar panels. It was not on there a couple years ago, so we found an older photo where it's not on there yet.
I made this picture 1 month ago.
So yeah, it's definitely on there now. I did find a different roof in Hamburg where I have questions about. So this is the chaos space here in Hamburg. And at least from the satellite photos I could find, it does not look like there's currently solar on the roof. So as a little challenge, maybe convince me next year that this has been changed. I understand that it's tricky for a lot of chaos spaces because you often rent in the building that you're in. But I would still encourage you to have a conversation with whoever you're renting from and say, hey, can we help you install them? What would we need to do to convince you? Can we buy the electricity off you, etc.? So there's lots of ways of where you can push roofs towards solar, and I really would encourage you to do that. I think we've talked about we're in trouble now, aren't we? Okay.
Overflow.
So I think we've talked about solar enough, so I've brought you a couple of other examples as well. So this is a wind turbine installed by the company Frosta, who make frozen meals, and they have this TV chef in their advertising called Peter's, so this is called Peter's Wings. And they do something really interesting with this. They generate electricity, but also it's right next to some of their freezers, so some of their like building-sized freezers. And what they're doing with these freezers is they're using them as batteries. So they have a kind of temperature range in which they can be. And when there's a lot of wind, they cool them down further than they normally would. And then they don't need the electricity when there's less wind. So it's not really a battery, it's more of a kind of shifting demand, but this is something that they're doing now combined with their wind turbine.
Did you know that the city of Bremen is building something similar, but there they are not cooling food, but it's an ice rink, so you can also have fun with it.
Go skating on basically what's a battery. And the other example I wanted to show you is from Vienna. This is a huge heat pump that the city of Vienna is using to take the leftover energy in their water waste treatment plant and feed this into district heating. So this is happening in lots of places now, these big heat pumps that feed into district heating that use things like rivers or even the ocean as their kind of heat reservoir and then feed into the district heating system. Another really cool example comes from Hamm, where they are turning what used to be the site of a coal plant into a battery storage facility. So you can still see in the background that there's a coal-powered plant. That does not operate anymore. Instead, there's a battery system there now. And a somewhat smaller example I also wanted to point out, which you can catch up with on the stream, is the heat pump that is being built by the people from Recklinghausen who have bought this former coal mine and are now turning it into their chaos space, and they're building their own heat pump. It's going to be open source and all kinds of fun things. So check this out. It was earlier today and should be on the stream.
I love this project.
So I think with all of these successes that we've shown you, maybe we've even convinced her now that more than 4% are possible. I mean, she's not in charge anymore, but it is nice to see that maybe she was able to be convinced. And with that, I want to remind you all to get active, join a solar camp, poke your local football club while they don't have solar yet, and get a bit chaotic as well with the spaces that you have access to. And with that, we want to throw all of our ingredients into the pot. And as we said, there is a lot of work to be done still to really make this magic potion happen, a lot of effort that has to go into this. And we're not that strong, so we can't just do this by ourselves.
Alone.
We do need everybody to get involved, and then we can do this. So we will need you and you and you and you, so we can all do the energy transition together. So we want to thank you for being here, everybody who gave us pictures, and the people who fund my research. And then, let's have some fun at this long weekend here in Hamburg, and then go back recharged and help push the energy transition along.
And
thank you very much.
have some chunk together this evening.
Yes, thank you.